How do I make the best stealth build possible in Payday 2 in 2021? It's a question that I'm getting asked a lot more recently, especially on my older solo stealth videos where people are commenting, asking if the build I used at that time still holds up, and if I change anything about it if I was to do it again today. Well, in this video today, what I'm going to do is show you my current stealth build, how exactly I've broken it down and my choices behind the skills, but also, because I know everyone has their own little ways of doing stealth builds, I'm going to offer ways you could change my skill points up with other key skills that you might want instead of some of the things I've chosen. So basically, it's going to be the most comprehensive stealth build I could possibly make, hopefully, and it will cover all of the possible options you could have for a stealth build to make it as easy for you as possible to succeed at stealth in Payday 2 in 2021. But before we get into the video, just very quickly, I'm going to break your immersion by doing this bit in a different t-shirt. Sorry about that, but I'd like to thank today's sponsors for the video, Opera GX. You probably know who they are by now, but if you don't, Opera GX is a web browser designed specifically for gamers. And it's a very, very nifty browser that I wish I'd installed a long time ago, and thankfully from this promotion, I've finally seen what I've been missing out on. But what's so special about Opera GX? Well, it actually has quite a few things that I really like about it. For one thing, you have the GX control option, which allows you to control how much of your network, your RAM, and your CPU are used by the web browser at any one time. So you can turn any one of these on and put a limit on the browser as to how much CPU it can use, how much RAM it can use, and how much of your internet speed it can use. So unlike Google Chrome, which will absolutely devour your RAM in the way that I used to devour cookies before I started going on my diet, Opera GX will prevent all of that. You can run a web browser smoothly and efficiently whilst having a game open at the same time. It's very, very satisfying. You also have got your Twitch plugin here, so you can log in and see who's streaming right now that you're following, but there are also plugins going right along the side for Facebook Messenger, Instagram if you want to check out your Instagram page, Twitter to see what's going on over there, and even Discord so you can check out your favorite servers without even having to open a new tab in your web browser. It really is absolutely fantastic. And you've even got this nifty little music player down here within which you can sign into YouTube Music, Spotify, or Apple Music, or all three at the same time. It's completely up to you as to what you want to use. And as a bonus, when any videos come on your web browser, like on YouTube or on Twitter, if you're listening to music at the same time, it will pause the music automatically while you watch the video and then start the music back up again once you finish watching it. It's features like that I never thought a browser would have, but it's so cool that one does. You can also get it on mobile. As a little side mention, it is now available on phones if that interests you too. And that's just a couple of reasons as to why I like the web browser so much. So if you're interested in it at all, make sure you check it out using the link in the description down below and in the pinned comment. Thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. I am genuinely so glad I've had this sponsorship with them because it's actually shown me what I've been missing out on. But with that being said, let's get back into the video and talk about stealth builds in Payday 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video first and foremost is talking through the skills I have right now in my current stealth build to explain what I've got and my logic towards some of the choices. Now, they are very, very unique to me. Some things you might think I'm stupid for having. There are some skills that you might think you should have instead of the ones I've got. That's the point of this video. I want to try and offer up some suggestions and ideas, and then whatever works for you best, you can pick. Let's have a little look in my skill tree. So, most of the skills spent, to me, are in the ghost tree, and also quite a few in technician. Now, the reason for ghost primarily is this shinobi subtree here. For me, first port of call for a stealth build is getting all of these 6 skills aced because they're just so useful. You need them. Chameleon aced, you know, you've got the basic first off, increasing the time before you start getting detected by 25% in casing mode, and marking enemies in casing, vital. Picking up items in casing mode, also very useful. You've then got the body bag skills, which are very handy, placing body bag cases. You've got Sixth Sense, which for me is really good for marking guards around me, as well as getting all the insider assets whenever those are needed for pre-planning, etc. You've then also got ECM skills, both in Specialist and Overdrive, opening doors, lasting longer, delaying pages. Those kind of things are really useful in higher level stealth heists, and also Nimble. Being able to lockpick things and also loop cameras, 2 very, very invaluable skills that you really want in a good stealth build. So to me, this whole subtree is non-negotiable. I wouldn't even consider removing any of these skills because I just don't think it's a good idea. Personally, I think if you're going to have a good stealth build, that's a good point to start with and then expand from there. So let's stay in the ghost tree and talk through the things that I've got, like I've said, and then I'll talk about some alternatives afterwards. So in the ghost tree, I've also got a few skills in the Artful Dodger subtree. So duck and cover, faster sprint regeneration, and faster sprint speed. Here, parkour, faster movement speed, faster climbing ladders, and also being able to run and reload and sprint any direction. That ace is not really as needed. That's the first thing I'll point out, something you could get rid of that you don't have to have. I just like the speed of being being able to run and reload if I'm in the middle of a panic, running after an enemy and need to reload before I shoot them, or just generally for speed, running in any direction. It's just handy to me personally. And then we also have basic inner pocket, which increases the concealment of all melee weapons by 2. Now think about it, with a stealth build, your main goal is to not get spotted, to move around quietly and get the objectives done without the alarm going off. And as such, you want your concealment to be as high as possible on, well, everything. And if you have a couple of weapons that have very high concealment, it can also, if you fancy a bit of fun, give you a chance to use a gun that has a bit less concealment just for the hell of it, because you'll already have a very low detection risk. That's what you want to have, the kind of flexibility that those kind of skills allow. And so having a base increase in concealment by 2 on all melee weapons just by getting that skill for 2 skill points, it's non-negotiable. It's another one I think you should just get. It's nice and simple. You can then pick any old melee weapon that's got a 30 base concealment that'll now be 32, and you'll have a very good melee weapon handy for stealth. Because remember, with any melee weapon you equip, as long as the guard hasn't seen you, they're a one-hit melee. It doesn't matter what weapon it is, it doesn't matter its damage. If the guard hasn't seen you, and you swing that melee weapon, one-hit kill. So you could bring the tiniest little shiv, you could bring a pencil, you could bring anything, it won't matter. As long as you're not spotted, you're sorted, it's fine. Also in Ghost, I've got basic second wind. This doesn't matter, it's mainly this, optical illusions ace. Less likely to be targeted by enemies, ignore, we're not playing loud, but gaining 1 concealment for every silenced weapon you equip, and also reducing the concealment penalty of all silencers by 2. So you're going to have suppressed weapons anyway in a stealth build, so already you're getting concealment increases for that. But also some suppressors can be quite damaging to your concealment stats. You can get good suppressors like low profile ones that won't change your concealment at all, in which case you're getting another 2 concealment just off the bat. But some suppressors are quite big and bulky, and as a result they will reduce the concealment the gun provides. So this skill helps offset that if you fancy using a different kind of suppressor that isn't so low profile. But of course, in an ideal world where possible, just use the simple suppressors. Make it nice and easy for yourself and get yourself as much concealment as possible. Let's look next in Technician. Now there are 2 or 3 key skills here, the rest are just kind of for points or just things I want to get. So we're going to focus mainly on Jack of all Trades, Kickstarter, and Drill Sergeant. Let's start with Jack of all Trades. Now Jack of all Trades, as you can see, you deploy and interact with all deployables 100% faster. So you put ECM jammers down faster, you pull body bags out of a case faster, that kind of thing. Nice and efficient, nice and quick. But the main draw is being able to equip a secondary deployable alongside your primaries. You can only equip half as much for secondary, but it's still very handy. You could have 2 ECM jammers and a body bag case, or vice versa, 2 body bag cases and an ECM jammer. Bring 14 trip mines with sensor mode activated, and then bring an ECM jammer to back it up. You can have any combination, and I just like the variety that Jack of all Trades provides in that department. I think it's very handy, and it's worth picking up. Next up, the drill skills. Drill Sergeant reduces all drill and saw timers by 30%. Note that doesn't apply to the OVE 9000 saw, in case you weren't sure about that. So any drills and saws you place on a device and leave for a period of time will be 30% faster, handy in stealth. And in the process, you'll have gotten basic hardware expert, which also makes everything silent. Pretty cool. But then you've also got Kickstarter. Now this you don't really have to get, and me personally, I would almost consider getting rid of this for more firepower. We'll talk about that in a moment though. I just like Kickstarter because it's funny. You hit a drill that's broken, 50% chance that it just fixes itself again. It's funny, it's convenient, it's handy, I like it. That's just me personally, and again, it's one of the discrepancies where you might not want that skill, you might want something else instead. And so conveniently, I will just stop here to talk about shape charges and trip mines just for a moment, because if you get more firepower ace, if I get rid of these 2 skills here and get these 2 skills here, then you'll have 14 trip mines, each of which in stealth are equipped with a sensor mode to mark when a guard walks past their line of sight. That can be invaluable in certain heists, and to be honest, I'm stupid for not using it in more of them, and it's a strategy a lot of people do tend to use in stealth walkthroughs. So if you go into a heist with a lot of guards and you know you can't take many out, bring these 14 trip mines, lay them in strategic points in doorways, through walls, that kind of things. Well, not through walls, but against walls. You know what I mean. And basically just use them to keep an eye out for any enemies in the area that you're less able to run around and mark yourself physically. So logically, I get more firepower. I keep that equipped for now, but Kickstarter, if you like the idea to be able to fix things faster, there's also that. Feel free to get that too. Again, personal choice. I've also just spent a few points here on Steady Grip. I like acing this for accuracy and stability. Not much else to explain there. If you want it, you want it. Get it. Simple. Beyond that, we've only got a few skill points spent in other trees. So let's look at Mastermind first. Basic Forced Friendship, just being able to cable tie hostages faster and also have formal cable ties. It's just handy and convenient. I've also got Stable Shot Basic for stability, and Snapping to Zoom being 100% faster with all weapons, and movement speed being unhindered while using steel sights with the Rifleman basic skill. Again, a matter of convenience. You might not need it. I like it. It suits me. Moving on to Enforcer, we've then just got basic resilience. We don't want that though. We're here for the Ace Transporter. Throwing bags further and also moving ever so slightly faster depending on the bags that you're carrying. That's perhaps a bit more debatable. You might not need the Ace. That's again personal preference, but I would definitely get the basic. That to me is a must, because you may have certain bags that are very light like jewelry that you can chuck across the map out of the way of guards so they don't even notice that they're there, and it's just very handy for moving things around quicker and more efficiently as well, I think personally. Not to mention, it also comes in clutch with the very heavy bags like Artifacts and Shadow Raid, because they barely throw very far with Transporter activated. You don't have it on, you're basically just getting them past your nose, and that's about it. So I'd get Transporter Basic, that's just me. And then finally in Fugitive, again, this is a personal preference one. I have Basic Equilibrium and Aced Akimbo. Only reason being, I like to use the Akimbo Judges as a primary a lot of the time, so it gives me more ammo, more stability, and just makes them more efficient to use generally. It works well for me, but if you don't like using Akimbo guns in your stealth builds, you don't need the skill. Save yourself the points. Okay, with that in mind, let's talk now about skills you could get instead of some of the things that I've picked up. As I've said, there are several skills here that are my personal preference and you might not like. So here's some alternatives. Let's start off with Mastermind first. Now, there aren't a great deal of skills I would really add here. You could increase the power and range of your intimidation by 50% with Basic Confident to try and get guards to go on their knees at a farther distance in certain heists. Very, very circumstantial, but could come in handy. You might also want to pick up a few other skills here. If you want to increase your weapon zoom level by 25% by acing Rifleman, you can do that. Increase certain reload speeds for certain weapons. Also, just convenient. Not really that necessary, though. Now, you don't really need to spec any skills towards weapon classes in the stealth build because you're trying to stay quiet and just get some stealthy kills every now and again. So you don't need any of the shotgun skills, and same for anything else with pistols, SMGs, that kind of thing. But you could also get some saw skills to complement your stealth build. And so if you fancy doing that, I would consider getting Portable Saw Aced, and if you want to get more ammo for the saw, try and get up the tree and get fully loaded Ace. But again, that is down to you and how important you value that as a part of your stealth build. Getting the Portable Saw Ace skill allows you to use the saw as a primary or secondary, and also makes the blades a little bit more efficient, giving you a carbon blade, which increases the saw efficiency by 40%. You don't need Saw Massacre because that's only against enemies. You don't need that at all. So maybe consider getting extra lead aced and then jumping right up to fully loaded. That way you've got ammo bags as an option for deployables if you're running Jack of all trades and you want to bring an ammo bag as a secondary for your saw. It does work. But again, that's circumstantial. You might be doing a bank heist where you want to use a saw, and if you do, get some skills to suit it. But generally, most stealth builds don't really benefit from having a saw that much. It's very circumstantial, depends on what you prefer to do, and also depends on the heist you're playing. And based on that fact, I'm going to just very quickly jump to Fugitive. If you do want to run a saw build and you fancy getting Frenzy and or Berserker, you can actually make the saw more effective against things like deposit boxes. If you activate Frenzy and Berserker, or just get Berserker and lower your health by jumping off buildings, that kind of thing, or setting yourself on fire with a Molotov, you can actually one-tap deposit boxes as opposed to 2 or 3 tap them. Just a very convenient little thing I mentioned very quickly there in case you fancy adding that to your build as well. In Technician, we've already talked about the whole more firepower Kickstarter debate. I would pick more firepower for the trip mine efficiency, but if it interests you, you could also pick up Basic Lock and Load to hit fire weapons while sprinting. That would go very well with Parkour Aced, which means you could fire and reload your guns while on the move. You're a fast moving killing machine in the shadows trying to get around without being spotted. It does work, it's an option. Not to mention, you could also consider picking up Basic Fire Control if you want a bit more accuracy while you're firing from the hip, or even Ace it to reduce your accuracy penalty while moving. You know, you've got options here. There are little discrepancies you can pick if you think these skills suit you. I haven't picked them myself, but that doesn't mean you can't. In Ghost, the only thing I'd add on is potentially if you want to get the Professional Basic or Aced to improve your stability, Snap to Zoom, or weapon accuracy with silenced weapons. The weapon Snap Zoom does not stack with the one we picked out in Rifleman not that long ago, so bear in mind it will still be 100% faster with your suppressed weapons, but there are other parts in that perk that make it worthwhile as well, so if you want to get it, feel free. Finally, in Fugitive, there's not really much I'd add here. I think maybe if you want to go for the pistol skills, you could increase your pistol magazine and your rate of fire. That is also quite handy for stealth if you want to use pistols in your build, but beyond that, there's not really much else I would use here, honestly, because like I've said with melee weapons, you're a one-hit kill with any melee weapon as long as you're not spotted, so that doesn't matter. So as general add-ons to this video after talking about the skills, I would say, again, remember detection risk is key. You want it to be as low as possible. High concealment guns and a lot of the skills I've talked about for increasing concealment with suppressed weapons, etc. are very, very important. You might find you have such good concealment on certain guns that you can change your weapons and reduce your concealment and your detection risk won't go up at all. For example, here I have the Akimbo Judge shotguns. The concealment is 30. If I change to these Akimbo Compact 5 submachine guns, my concealment will go down by 2. But detection risk hasn't changed because I have so many concealment buffs on that I can actually get a gun that's a bit lower in concealment just for the fun of it and not have any change to my detection risk. That's very handy. It's only when I go down to the Brothers Grimm with 25 concealment that I get to 4 detection risk. But even then, 4 is absolutely fine. I would say 5 or lower is just perfect here for stealth builds. 3 is the best, obviously, that goes without saying. But if you're 5 or lower, you're good. And even a smidge above that, as long as you're pretty decent at stealth, I wouldn't worry either. Just get the detection risk as low as possible, get the guns you like, the skills you like, and you're good to go. And of course, don't forget that if you equip Jack of all trades, that you need to equip a secondary deployable. So make sure that you equip something as a secondary and something as a primary, so you're making the most of that skill as well. Beyond that, like I've said, melee weapons and throwables are very much just interchangeable. Just make sure you pick a melee weapon that has 32 concealment to max up the concealment for your lower detection risk. So there are loads of options. Nova's Shank, URSA Knife, the Spatula's only 31, but that's still not too bad. But you can see that in changing that, detection risk goes up by 2. So it's all a case of pick and choose. You choose which thing suffers a little bit of concealment and try and keep the detection risk as low as possible. Again, personal preference. Which guns do you like? Which melee weapons do you like? Take your pick and get the detection risk as low as possible. And just to screw with your head that little bit more, I'm recording this again in the different t-shirt from the sponsor bit because somehow whilst editing this I realised I didn't talk about Perk Decks. I don't know how that slipped my mind, but I'm here to talk about them very briefly because there are 3 Perk Decks I would recommend that you consider for your ultimate stealth build. 2 require paid DLC, which isn't ideal, I know, but 1 is free, so there's hopefully good options for you regardless of whether you have DLC or not. So let's first off talk about the free perk deck and then talk about the paid DLC ones. The free one is Hacker. It allows you to equip a pocket version of the ECM jammer that only lasts 6 seconds, but while it's active, it turns off cameras, it delays page responses, and basically just disables any other electronics you'd expect a basic ECM jammer to do. The best part is you've got 2 of these pocket devices, and they also regenerate after a 100-second cooldown, so you do have more options throughout the stealth heist. It's quite handy. There's only a few situations where I think Hacker wouldn't be very useful. One of them is if you kill, for instance, a guard in front of a security camera. The camera would obviously spot the guard's body, but if you put a pocket ECM jammer down, that would stop the camera from seeing anything. However, it would also delay the pager, and you've got to answer a pager normally after you kill a guard, so it wouldn't really fix the problem. You still have a guard's body in front of a camera. At that point, you're kind of screwed. There's not really any way to get out of that, unfortunately. But beyond that, generally, it's quite good to use, so it's a good perk deck, and it's a good option. Second off is the first DLC option that requires the Yakuza character pack, and it is the Yakuza perk deck. There's only one thing in this perk deck that I think is worth mentioning, and that is the speed boost perk that will actually boost your movement speed by up to 20% if your health is below 25%. It's the reason why in certain stealth walkthroughs you might see people throwing a Molotov on the floor and burning their health down to near 0. That's what gives them the speed boost. It means they're running the Yakuza perk deck. The movement speed boost is quite handy, so it's another option if you own that character pack. But my personal favourite, and the one I will defend until my dying breath, is the one that comes with the Clover character pack DLC, the Burglar perk deck, because it gives you 3 things I think are very important. First off, it allows you to pick locks 20% faster. Second off, it allows you to bag bodies 20% faster. And third off, and perhaps most importantly for me, pages can be answered 10% faster. An interaction you can't interrupt actually has a second taken off the duration. That is vital to me. I think all 3 of those, while they don't make huge differences, make small enough noticeable ones that I think it's worthwhile equipping in a stealth build. So that is me personally recommending that you go for that. But of course, as with everything else in this video, it's personal preference, and there might be other perk decks you prefer. Maybe you want to go for Hitman because it gives you better perks for having akimbo weapons. There are other options to play with here, I'm well aware of that, but they're my top 3 options I'd recommend to you. 1 free, 2 paid DLC. There's also one other thing I would consider as well in your ultimate stealth build, and that's the crew management system. Because when you're playing on your own in stealth, and let's face it, you probably should be, because whether you're playing with friends or publicly, stealth can just be a bit of a nightmare with matchmaking and desync and that kind of thing. Each of the heister AI characters that are put into the game alongside you in lieu of real players will give you both an active and a passive boost for your gameplay. And for stealth, there are certain ones I would recommend you pick up. So you can pick 3 crew abilities and 3 crew boosts, each one assigned to a specific AI member of your team. Always prioritize the most important ability and boost in AI member number 1 and the least important one in AI number 3, because AI number 3 is the first one to leave if someone joins, and so on and so forth. For the abilities, the only one you really need to consider is Quick, because it increases your interaction speed with most objects by 25% for every AI present. So if there are 3 AI heisters in the lobby with you, you're interacting with everything 75% faster. The only thing I can really think of that doesn't count are answering pages. The second one you could also consider, I suppose, is Sharp Eyed. You get more ammo from ammo pickups, but you're only going to get those from the odd guard you kill, and even then, you're not very often going to run out of stealth ammo, so get it, because you might as well, but it's not that important. And then for the crew boosts, there are 8 available, but only 3 of them fit stealth gameplay, so there's not even any point in talking about the other 5, because they just don't fit stealth heist. You've got Concealer, which gives players 3 more concealment right off the bat, Invigorator, which gives players more stamina, and also reduces the armor speed penalty. That bit doesn't doesn't matter because you're not wearing armor, but more stamina means you can sprint for longer. And finally, you've got Accelerator, which means you reload and swap weapons 50% faster. So those three, just equip in whatever order you want. I would prioritize Concealer, but it really doesn't matter. It's up to you what you prefer. That's all I've got to add on to the video, so let's go back to Past Troy now to finish off the video. And there you have it, my tips for the most efficient stealth build for Payday 2 in 2021. As I said in this video, my goal was to give you a bunch of options, so that if you didn't like the things that I picked, you had alternatives to go for to best suit your playstyle. I hope this video has helped. If it has, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It lets me know you've enjoyed this content and would like to see something more like this. I actually haven't done a build video in quite a while, and I really enjoyed making this video, so if there are other build videos you want to see, let me know in the comment section below. If you just want to see more videos generally for builds, or if you have something particular in mind, let me know in the comment section, and I'll see what I can cook up for you. But that wraps up the video, so as I've said, drop a like if you've enjoyed, and also make sure you subscribe if you're new, so you can keep up to date with all future content on the channel. It's quick, it's free, and I'll always love you for doing so. Thank you once again to OperaGX for sponsoring this video. Check out OperaGX using the link in the description and in the pinned comment, and beyond that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all very soon with a brand new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you all soon.